It's a crisp autumn morning in Elk Grove Village, Illinois. 12-year-old Mary Kellerman wakes up with a scratchy throat and a runny nose. Like any parent would, her father gives her one extra strength Tylenol capsule to help get her through the school day. By 7 a.m., Mary is found collapsed on the bathroom floor. She's pronounced dead shortly after. At the time, doctors are baffled. A healthy 12-year-old doesn't just stop breathing. But while the Kellerman family is grieving, the nightmare is only beginning. You see, across town, a 27-year-old postal worker named Adam Janis suffers a massive heart attack, or so they thought. While his family gathers at his home to mourn, his brother Stanley and sister-in-law Teresa, distraught and headachy, reach for the same bottle of Tylenol Adam had used earlier that day. Within hours, 3 members of the same family are dead. The city of Chicago realizes it isn't a medical anomaly, it's a massacre. So how do you catch a killer who doesn't use a gun or a knife? Investigators were working into the dark until 2 off-duty firefighters, Philip Capitelli and Richard Keyworth, sat at a kitchen table comparing each other's notes. They realized that all the victims had one thing in common. That was Tylenol. When the bottles were brought to the lab, the deputy medical examiner opened one and took a sniff. He recoiled. The scent was unmistakable. The smell of bitter almonds. Forensic testing revealed that the capsules hadn't just been tainted, they had been surgically altered. The killer had carefully pulled the gelatin capsules apart, replaced the white medicinal powder with lethal doses of potassium cyanide, and clicked them back together. The dose in each capsule was roughly 100 to 1,000 times the amount needed to kill a human being. It wasn't just murder, it was overkill. The victims didn't even stand a chance. They were literally dead before they even realized something was wrong. The investigation was one of the largest in FBI history, centered in a high-security command center known as Room 3000. Police scoured thousands of hours of grainy surveillance footage. In one video, they saw a man later dubbed the Bearded Man watching a woman buy a bottle of Tylenol. He never touched her. He never spoke. He just watched. Was he the killer returning to the scene to watch his handiwork? Then came the ransom note. A man named James Lewis sent a letter to Johnson & Johnson demanding $1 million to, quote, stop the killing. The FBI swarmed. They found Lewis, but there was a problem. He was in New York during the Chicago murders. While he was a con artist and an extortionist, who eventually went to prison, the smoking gun connecting him to the actual poisoning was never found. The police even looked into Roger Arnold, a local dock worker who had reportedly had a breakdown and owned a stash of cyanide. He was eventually cleared, but the stress of the investigation drove him to a dark place, where he later shot and killed a man he thought was the informant who turned him in. The Tylenol murders were claiming victims who hadn't even touched the pills. It is hard for us to imagine today, but in 1982, the world was built on trust. You could go into a grocery store, open a jar of mayonnaise to smell it, and put it back on the shelf. When the news broke, the country descended into Tylenol terror. Police drove through Chicago streets with bullhorns screaming, "Do not consume Tylenol." Hospitals were flooded with worried well people who had headaches and were convinced that they were dying of cyanide poisoning. Johnson & Johnson faced a choice that would define corporate history. Their marketing experts said that the brand was dead. They advised the company to change the name to Hyde, but instead, the CEO, James Burke, did the unthinkable. He ordered a nationwide recall of 31 million bottles. He appeared on television, transparent and devastated, promising that Tylenol would not return to shelves until it was safe. When Tylenol did return, it looked different. It had triple layer seals, foil wraps, and tamper evident labels. And within 6 months, the Anti Tampering Act was passed, making it a federal crime to mess with consumer products. The killer achieved their goal of chaos, but they also inadvertently changed the physical world. So every time you struggle to get into a bottle of vitamins or Tylenol or a carton of milk, you are interacting with a legacy of that Chicago murders. The case remains open still. The DNA is still being processed and tested with modern technology, but for now, the person who turned a medicine cabinet into a minefield remains a shadow in the aisle.